Why does your grocery bill feel higher, even when nothing's on sale? You're not imagining it. Despite Trump's recent pause on some tariffs, 10 everyday items you probably buy every week are still getting slammed with extra costs. From avocados to wine, these hidden fees are quietly jacking up your food budget, and no one's talking about it. Stick around because in the next few minutes, we're breaking down which grocery items are still under tariff fire and how it's affecting your wallet way more than you think. Before the start of video, please give me a favor to subscribe my channel to appreciate my efforts. We'll also talk about how these tariffs came to be, who's really paying the price, and whether there's any relief in sight. Trust me, you're going to want to hear this before your next grocery run. Let's dive in. 1. Avocados. Let's start with everyone's favorite toast topper, avocados. They're creamy, tasty, and a must-have in many kitchens. But here's the thing, if you've noticed the price of avocados climbing, you're not alone. There's a reason behind it. And it's not just because they're popular. Avocados are still getting slammed with tariffs, especially those imported from Mexico. Now, the US gets about 80% of its avocados from Mexico. So when tariffs hit, the cost goes up, and guess who pays for that? Yep, you do. Even though some trade tensions cooled off with Trump's recent tariff pause, avocados didn't make the safe list. They're still on the hook. Importers and distributors have to pay more, and that cost trickles right down to your shopping cart. So instead of paying $1.25 for one avocado, you might be paying $2 or more, depending on where you live. And that adds up, especially if you're someone who buys them weekly. Why were avocados targeted in the first place? It's part of the larger US-Mexico trade fight, which involves everything from steel to farm products. Avocados got caught in the middle. And even though both countries rely on the trade, no one wants to blink first when it comes to lifting those tariffs. What's worse? These tariffs aren't temporary. There's no clear end date, which means we could be paying higher prices for avocados for a long time. So next time you're reaching for that perfectly ripe avocado, just remember, it's not just delicious. It's also a victim of global politics. 2. Tomatoes. Tomatoes might seem simple. You slice them up for burgers, toss them in a salad, or cook them into pasta sauce. But behind the scenes, these little red gems are part of a much bigger and more expensive story. A lot of the tomatoes we eat in the US come from Mexico. In fact, nearly 60% of fresh tomatoes in US grocery stores are imported. So, when tariffs hit Mexican produce, tomatoes got pulled right into the mix. Even though Trump paused some tariffs, tomatoes weren't spared. They're still facing extra import fees. That means your favorite Roma, cherry, or beefsteak tomatoes cost more before they even hit the shelf. And here's the thing, this isn't just a few cents. These added costs can raise prices by 20 to 40%, depending on the type of tomato and the season. If you've noticed your grocery bill creeping up when buying produce, this might be why. What's really frustrating? Tariffs aren't just about trade, they're about negotiation pressure. The tomato tariffs are tied to ongoing disputes between US tomato growers and Mexican exporters. Each side wants protection. But at the end of the day, it's consumers like you who feel the squeeze. And it's not just fresh tomatoes. These tariffs affect canned tomatoes, tomato paste, and even some sauces, the stuff we use all the time. Pizza night? Yep, it's costing more now. So next time you pick up a tomato, remember, it's not just a healthy food. It's also tangled up in international politics and pricing wars. 3. Cheese. Alright, cheese lovers, this one's going to sting a little. Whether you're a fan of sharp cheddar, gooey mozzarella, or fancy imported brie, cheese has been caught in the tariff trap, and prices are reflecting it. You might think most cheese is made right here in the US. And yes, a lot of it is. But many popular cheeses, especially specialty or gourmet types, come from Europe, especially France, Italy, and Switzerland. These imported cheeses have been hit with some serious tariffs, as high as 25% or more. But, well, this one's tied to a long-standing trade dispute between the US and the European Union. It originally started over aircraft companies, Boeing and Airbus, believe it or not, but food products got pulled into the fight. Cheese, wine, olives, and more became bargaining chips. Trump's tariff pause may have softened some areas, but cheese imports? Still getting slammed. So when you reach for that creamy wedge of Gouda or a chunk of Parmesan for your pasta, you're not just paying for the flavor, you're also paying for a slice of political drama. Even some US-made cheeses have seen price jumps. But because some ingredients or packaging materials are imported, and those costs add up too. The bottom line? Cheese prices aren't just rising because of inflation. tariffs are playing a big role. So if your charcuterie board has been feeling more budget than bougie lately, now you know why. And unfortunately, there's no solid end in sight. Until trade tensions chill out, your cheese cravings might keep burning a hole in your wallet. Let's talk about something most of us can't live without: coffee. Whether you brew it at home or grab it on the go, that daily cup has become a ritual. But lately, your favorite roast might be costing more than it used to. And guess what? Tariffs are part of the reason why. Most of the coffee we drink in the US is imported from countries like Brazil, Colombia, and Vietnam. These places grow the beans, ship them here, and boom, you've got your morning pick-me-up. But when tariffs hit imported goods, coffee gets caught in the crossfire. Even though Trump's tariff pause helped in some areas, coffee was left behind. Some types of coffee, especially green, unroasted, beans and specialty blends, are still facing extra import taxes. That makes it more expensive for coffee roasters in the US to get their hands on the good stuff. And it doesn't stop there. The equipment and packaging that companies use, filters, pods, even the bags your beans come in, might also be imported. And yep, some of that is still tariff too. So when you're paying $16.99 for that premium bag of beans, a chunk of that price isn't just quality, it's politics. Even coffee shops are feeling it. They're paying more for their supplies, which means you could be shelling out an extra $1 or $2 for your favorite latte or cold brew. All thanks to trade battles behind the scenes. So if you've been wondering why your caffeine habit is suddenly more expensive, now you know. It's not just demand or inflation. Tariffs are brewing in your cup too. Now let's raise a glass, but maybe just one, because wine is another grocery item still stuck under heavy tariffs. If you enjoy a nice glass of red with dinner or a chilled white on a weekend, you've probably noticed the prices creeping up. And it's not just because of inflation or fancy branding. Tariffs are a big reason your wine bill is going up. Here's the scoop. A large chunk of wine sold in the US comes from European countries like France, Spain, and Italy. These wines were slapped with 25% tariffs during the trade dispute between the US and the EU, again, over that long-standing conflict about aircraft subsidies. Even though some tariffs were paused under Trump's later policies, many European wines are still being taxed. That means every bottle has to absorb those extra costs, and guess who pays for it in the end? Yep, us the consumers. It's not just the fancy imported bottles, either. Even mid-range and affordable wines have been impacted, making your regular grocery store wine run more expensive than before. And it doesn't stop at the wine itself. Think about bottles, corks, and labels. Many of these materials are imported and have their own tariffs too. So wine producers are seeing costs rise across the board, and they're passing that cost straight to your wallet. What's worse? These tariffs have led to lower selection on store shelves, as some smaller wine importers simply can't afford the added costs. So the next time you're browsing for a bottle and thinking, wasn't this cheaper last year? You're not imagining it. Tariffs are pouring into your glass, one sip at a time. 6. Olive oil. Let's talk about a kitchen staple that's become as essential as salt: olive oil. Whether you use it for cooking, salad dressings, or dipping warm bread, it's one of those things we all keep around. But if you've noticed olive oil prices creeping up lately, you're not alone. And yes, tariffs are playing a big role. The US imports a lot of olive oil. And when we say a lot, we mean millions of gallons every year. The biggest suppliers? Spain and Italy. These two countries provide some of the best and most popular olive oils in the world. But unfortunately, they're also the countries getting hit the hardest by US tariffs. Due to the ongoing trade disputes with the European Union, again tied back to the aircraft wars and other global economic battles, the US imposed 25% tariffs on many imported goods, including olive oil. And while some products got relief when tariffs were paused, olive oil didn't make the cut. That means every time a bottle of Spanish or Italian olive oil hits the shelves in America, it's already been taxed. And of course, those extra costs get passed on to you, the shopper. Even worse, extreme weather in Europe has affected olive harvests, leading to less supply and even higher prices. So now we're seeing a double hit: tariffs plus shortages. The result? What used to be a $9 bottle could now cost $12 or more. And if you're into the high-end, extra virgin varieties, that price jump is even bigger. So next time you're drizzling olive oil on your veggies, remember, it's not just cooking anymore. It's cooking with liquid gold that's taxed at the border. 7. Seafood. Now let's dive into something many of us enjoy for dinner: seafood. Whether it's shrimp for your stir-fry or tilapia for a light, healthy meal, seafood has been a staple in many kitchens. But if you've noticed a rise in prices for these items, you're not imagining it. Tariffs are the culprit. A large chunk of the seafood we buy in the US comes from China. Shrimp, tilapia, and other popular fish are imported in huge quantities. But when the US placed tariffs on Chinese goods as part of the ongoing trade war, seafood didn't escape. Shrimp, in particular, has been slammed with 25% tariffs since 2018. And tilapia, another popular choice, is also affected by similar trade restrictions. The result? You're paying more at the checkout for the same seafood you've been buying for years. It's not just the shrimp cocktail you're after, it's also the extra fees tacked on during import. So the cost rises before it even hits the store shelves. And it's not just the big-name brands getting hit. Smaller importers who rely on Chinese seafood are also feeling the pinch, leading to lower stock levels and even less variety in some areas. That means if you're looking for frozen shrimp or tilapia fillets, you might find fewer options at your local grocery store. This isn't a temporary issue either. As trade talks drag on, the tariffs on Chinese seafood are likely to stick around for the foreseeable future. And that means you'll continue to pay a bit extra for the seafood that's been caught up in global trade disputes. So the next time you're stocking up on shrimp for dinner, just remember, you're paying for more than just the seafood. You're paying for the trade war that's still simmering. 8. Pork products. Alright, bacon lovers, this one might hurt a little. Let's talk about pork products, like bacon, ham, sausages, and ribs. If these are part of your weekend breakfast or summer barbecue plans, you've probably noticed that they've gotten more expensive. And yep, tariffs are part of the reason why. You might be surprised to know that a big portion of the pork products we consume in the US come from our closest neighbors, Canada and Mexico. But during the past few years of trade tension, pork has become one of the biggest targets in the back-and-forth tariff battles. When the US first imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum from Canada and Mexico, those countries responded with their own tariffs, and pork was on their list. Even though some of those duties were lifted, certain tariffs on pork imports are still in place, especially on processed pork products. These trade policies have made it more expensive for pork to cross borders smoothly. So when your favorite grocery store stocks bacon from Canada or sausage from Mexico, that product has already faced extra fees before it even makes it to your cart. And guess who ends up paying for that? Yep, you do. What's worse is that many restaurants and food services rely on these imported pork products, too. So whether you're buying it at the store or ordering a bacon cheeseburger, you're feeling the effects of those tariffs one way or another. So next time you're frying up some bacon or tossing some pork chops on the grill, just remember, it's not just pork on your plate. It's pork that's been caught up in a cross-border price battle. 9. Berries. Let's talk about berries. Strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, those juicy, colorful little fruits we love to toss into smoothies, sprinkle on cereal, or snack on straight from the box. They're healthy, delicious, and usually available all year long. But lately, they're also getting a bit more expensive, and yep, you guessed it, tariffs are playing a role. A massive amount of the berries we eat in the US actually come from Mexico. Thanks to the warm climate down south, they can grow berries during seasons when American farms can't. That's how we get fresh berries even in the middle of winter. But with ongoing trade tensions, some of those sweet imports have been slapped with tariffs, which are basically extra taxes placed on goods crossing the border. So what happens next? The cost of importing strawberries and blueberries goes up. That means your favorite berry blend now costs more before it even hits the produce aisle. And of course, those added costs get passed on to you, the shopper. Even berry-based products, like jams, frozen berries, or fruit cups, can see price bumps if the raw ingredients are affected by tariffs. So it's not just fresh berries that take the hit. The whole supply chain gets more expensive. And while some US farms do grow berries, they can't meet the massive year-round demand alone. We still need those imports to fill the gap, especially during the off-season. But with tariffs sticking around, it's likely that berry prices will stay higher than what we were used to in the past. So next time you're packing your lunch or whipping up a smoothie bowl, know this. Those berries may look sweet and simple, but behind the scenes, they're caught up in a pretty sour trade situation. Beer. Let's be honest, beer is a big deal in the US. Whether it's backyard BBQs, game nights, or just winding down after work, beer is part of the American lifestyle. But lately, some folks are noticing that a six-pack is putting a bigger dent in their wallets. So what's going on? Yep, tariffs are part of the buzzkill. A large chunk of the beer sold in the US is either imported from Mexico or Europe or made with ingredients that come from those places. Think about brands like Corona, Heineken, and Stella Artois. They're staples on store shelves, and all of them rely heavily on international supply chains. Thanks to tariffs on imports from countries like Mexico and several in Europe, everything from the actual beer to the aluminum used in beer cans is being hit with extra fees. So, even if your beer is brewed in the US, if it's packaged in imported cans or made with hops or malts sourced from overseas, it's still feeling the pinch. And beer lovers aren't the only ones feeling it. Bars, restaurants, and small craft brewers that rely on imported supplies are seeing their costs go up. Some have to either eat the cost or pass it along to customers, meaning your pint at happy hour might cost more than it used to. The worst part? Beer prices were already rising due to inflation and supply chain issues. Tariffs just added another layer to the price hike. So the next time you crack open a cold one, remember, you're not just paying for the brew. You're also paying a little extra thanks to international trade drama. Cheers to that, or maybe not. And there you have it, 11 everyday grocery items still stuck under heavy tariffs, even after the pause. From berries to beer, it's clear that trade tensions are hitting where it hurts, right in our shopping carts. If you found this video helpful or eye-opening, do us a quick favor, hit that like button so more people can learn what's really behind rising grocery bills. And if you've noticed higher prices on any of these items lately, drop a comment below. We'd love to hear what's happening in your area. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because we break down the real stories behind your everyday expenses. No fluff, just the facts. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay informed, shop smart, and we'll see you in the next one.